Hello there. Hope you're having a fine day. I'm live from Brasilia. It's early in the morning here, and would like you to join me for this Plone single sign-on with Keycloak session. I would love if we have some interaction, if you send your questions through the comments, either on YouTube, Twitch, or LinkedIn. And of course, everything I'm going to show you today, I'm going to have, let be light better. It's going to be also available on GitHub on the collective later today. Okay, so without further delay, I want to start talking about authentication in Plone. Authentication in Plone, it's something that goes a long way. It's one of the most interesting features of Plone for quite a long time. A long time ago, I do remember that, I'm that old, the Brazilian government was looking for a CMS solution back in 2002, 2001, and there was a call for a proof of concept for many players, Vignette, Interwoven, and all the great players there. And a group of employees of Serpro decided to come up with an open source solution, and they trialed Plone. They did the proof of concept with Plone, and Plone was the only one that was able to solve one of the requirements. That was, they had the whole authentication system running on a mainframe at the time, and they needed to authenticate this new CMS against this database. At least that's what I was told a long time ago. And memory could not be perfect. And Plone was the only solution that was able to do that in a short amount of time. Of course, we had the help of people from Serpro that were actually they actually knew how to implement the authentication. But the good part in here is the fact that Plone is built on top of Zope. Zope always thought about, okay, we need to authenticate against many systems, so it's important for us to support all of them. Time passes, we come with Zope 3 and newer versions of Plone, and we have a concept of Pluggable Authentication System that allows you to write plugins for the many steps you want in an authorization and authentication workflow. So, for instance, one of the things I did in the past was this crazy scenario for a bank here in Brazil. They wanted their internal university, like distance learning solution built on top of Plone back in 2006 to authenticate against their Active Directories, right? Active Directory is a Microsoft solution based on LDAP. And we said, okay, no problem. But they kind of told us just half the truth at the time. It's like, okay, it needs to authenticate with Active Directory, but the user properties, their employee number, their full name, and so on and so forth, will come from our mainframe. And we're like, okay, we can do that. Oh, but that's easier because every day, early in the morning, we do a dump of the employee database to a Postgres database. So you can use that Postgres database. Okay, easier. So that's interesting, right? And when we start the deployment there, they told us the rest of the story. That was, oh, by the way, we do not have one Active Directory, we have 13. And how? Yeah, because connectivity is not that perfect, and we have branch offices, and each branch office or major branch office has their own Active Directory. So you need to authenticate to all of them. So someone will basically come to the e-learning solution type their user and password, and we would need to check 13 different Active Directories. And then, oh, found. Then I will get, based on the employee ID, I will get the data for their profile from Postgres database. That was the level of complexity at the time. And yeah, that was easy because Plone supports that. Of course, we had to play with cache and have some smart decisions about which Active Directory would we try to authenticate first. But in the end, it worked out, right? So the important thing in here is I can have, and Plone always supported this concept of many different backends for you to do authentication and to get the information from. That's native. But over the past few years, these, for instance, one requirement we hear all the time is, oh, I already have my Active Directory, or I already have my LDAP solution, and I want to authenticate against that. So people are going to use Plone, but my users need to come from this solution. Or the most recent case is like, okay, I want to use GitHub or Facebook or Google as my my system for authentication, right? Plone has support for all of those natively. And for quite some time, honestly, I would basically say go there. That's the way to go. But one thing I noticed over time, especially in the last 10 years, is Plone is not like the king of the castle anymore. Is not the main solution you're going to have in your deployments. You're going to integrate with other things, right? And more and more, it became clear that you needed to have some kind of identity management solution. And a few years ago, I heard about Keycloak. I heard the Brazilian government uses. I heard about many other companies using it. Of course, there's Okta or many other providers you can plug, and Plone supports them. But if you're going to do something, my humble opinion these days, if you're going to do something that probably is going to have more than Plone, like you're going to do internet, but also there's some legacy systems and so on and so forth, move towards Keycloak or a similar solution. Today, we are going to talk about how to do stuff with Keycloak, do this authentication with Keycloak. This could be a really short hands-on. Of course, if everything goes right, or if it does not go right, we're going to see things blowing up on my face, right? So without much, let's say, without using the LLM of live coding, because this is something that people here in my country, they are saying that these LLM solutions are great to basically create content out of nowhere or create explanations where they do not exist. And I'm talking about almost 10 minutes talking about and not showing. So let's go to show you the code. So we're going to use, and I have in here my good friend Fred saying, yeah, authentication demo effect. What could go right the first time? I have no idea. And to be honest, the fact that two of the components I'm going to demo today were released, their latest versions were released late at night in Brazil, it says a lot. I like to live dangerously, so bear with me. Let's see how we go in here. And here. Okay, I created this code base. using the latest cookie Plone I created earlier yesterday to set up everything. There are some changes in here from the default setup. The first one is I have in the DevOps folder, I have Keycloak and I have OpenLDAP. And actually in here, what I have is a Docker file to create a Keycloak. It's based on 22. We have Keycloak 25, but it's based on 22. I have a theme in here. I can talk a little bit more about how that was created, just to show you can change the look and feel of Keycloak. And I have the definition of the helm of Keycloak. Basically, I want, when this thing starts, I want to have already the configurations I need, for instance, for authentication and so on and so forth. And for OpenLDAP, I just have LD file. That's the way for you to populate LDAP, OpenLDAP. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to create a organizational unit users inside plone.org, cfred, that's for us. Another one, groups, and then create users, Érico F. Dornelli Stremea, it's always, I always feel the need to thank my master in here, someone that did so much for Plone, and then Jane Doe, and then groups like foundation members, core developers, and site editors. Site editors have just one person. So I do this, and then I have in here my Docker Compose. That's going to have, I'm going to start this, it's going to take a while to start, so I want to show you. There's front end and back end, I'm not starting those. In neither the database, I could run everything inside Docker, but I decided to go in a simple way because I want to change some stuff. So in here I have Keycloak, the database for Keycloak, and LDAP, right? Let's start running the Keycloak server here. It's going to start. One thing, I'm using traffic, and I'm saying that this Keycloak is going to enter on sso.localhost, right? It means that I do this, there's a Keycloak in here. Our authentication is going to be done on this helm. And of course, I do not remember the path to the authentication, but signing in, this is going to be our thing. You see, I already have in here GitHub as well. This is a requirement, for instance, for the Plone Foundation. So I decided to show you how it's done. Right now, we do not have anything set up for the front end and back end. So let's start with delete existing, because I tested that last night. And this is going to create a new site. Already I do set up of the integration with Keycloak, just to make sure my life is not that hard during the demo. And then make backend start. And of course, I have in here the front end as well, in a folder for the like a terminal for the front end. And I'm going back just one level and make front end start. So backend is here, front end is here. If I come here and say, oh, let me see the localhost port 880 and manage admin. Here already have a site created. And I'm showing you behind the scenes already the ZMI, and this is the pluggable authentication. So in here you can see the plugins and the order of plugins. Basically, for authentication, source user, search session, and JWT auth. JWT, it's JSON Web Tokens, if I'm not mistaken. This is what we use to authenticate our users with Keycloak. So group enumerations, I have groups Keycloak and group introspection. This is one add-on I'm going to share with you. Roles plugin also coming from Keycloak. So I'm going to have roles in Keycloak as well, because that way it's easier for us to basically say, okay, this group of people has this have this permission. And now I'm going to go, if all's right, on port 3000. This is a simple Plone site, right? But before I go on, I want to show you what we have behind the scenes in here. For the backend, we added, coming here, we have pyproject.homo. We added these two add-ons. I hope it's easy to read. Yeah, it seems so. So pas.plugins.oidc version 2.0 is the latest version. OIDC allows you to connect to any OpenID or OAuth that you want. We have another solution called pas.plugins.oidc that supports many OAuth providers. These days, I usually say, if you have time and if you have the resources, go with OIDC and set up a Keycloak server. That's the way to go. Oh, but I'm setting up a simple site with I don't know. Give you an example, like 2025.pythonbrazil.org.pr. This site in here, if I do a login, GitHub authentication, this is pas.plugins.oidc, okay? We have in here my good friend Mikel saying that they use OIDC for Go, Keycloak, and EU. And actually, it's interesting. Thank you, Mikel, because he was the one that implemented support for many pas.plugins OIDC plugins on the same installation, and he also did the same for the front-end solution. So thank you for that. In here, I have this. What else do I do? In the code in here, in dependencies, I load both of them just to be sure that they are going to be ready when I run this instance. And in here, I have metadata. I install both plugins. One of the advantages of pas.plugins Keycloak is the fact that it allows me to Keycloak groups. It allows me to use the registry. So the configuration for Keycloak, pas.plugins Keycloak group, it's already in registry here. For pas.plugins OIDC, there are two different ways. One is for you to provide some environmental variables. Thank you, Mauro for this amazing solution. And the other one I do here is, this is a second profile, and I have it in here. Set Keycloak information on. So this is where I'm going to send you. That's the realm I'm going to use. Client ID, client secret. That's important. Scope, you need to have for Keycloak at least. And by the way, if Mauro is watching or Mikel knows, but for Keycloak, if you do not have that, it fails. So, and the default on pas.plugins OIDC does not have this one. So I decided not to change that because reasons, right? But this in here, in this setup, it's already perfect. So this is the backend. In the front end, what we need to do is, in my package.json, I basically say I'm going to use volto-authomatic. This is the version. The latest version is 3.0.0 alpha 1. there's one thing I'm going to change here. I'm going to change the setting, config settings, show Plone login, because this is something the good friends of all the web asked us to provide, is the ability to have also the Plone login available. I'm going to show you this in this new version. So right now, if I want to authenticate, what do I need to do? I click in login. It's going to redirect me to Keycloak. See the URL here. I'm going to use my username first and hope for the best. Remember me, sign in. Oh no, I type it wrong. See, connected, and I am authenticated now. So this is it. I already have my profile in here. And if I decide to do, I'm an editor, I cannot add stuff. It's really, really important for you to understand the roles and permissions. So I can edit this, but I cannot add new information. I could, however, use sharing if I say core developers. Remember that group that was defined on LDAP? It's available here. So in here, Fred is saying that the scope was not required around half last year. No idea what happened there, but yesterday I spent like 5 minutes debugging why authentication was not working, and it was like that. So that group is already available here, which is good. But I wanted to show you something, right? Keycloak has one benefit that that I would say it's awesome for when you're dealing with, for instance, Plone.org, right, Fred? Fred, for those who are not aware, this is Fred. He's the leader of the infrastructure team or admin for Plone. And we were discussing about using Keycloak. He already has something midway. But in here, Helms Plone account. One important thing is oh my God, yeah, you're the leader. You're the boss. And you see, I am authenticated here. The team did not change this, but we can change this as well. So it's quite amazing what you can do with Keycloak in terms of teaming in an easy way. And in here, I have my personal information, right? Account security. One thing, it's the linked accounts. And you say, oh, see, unlinked login profiles, you have GitHub, and you have the possibility to link your account. So let's see if it works. Now I have also LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I have GitHub. I was thinking about adding LinkedIn, but let's mean it. So in here, you see, I can have my LDAP account or the main account, for instance, GitHub, and then add additional accounts, right, and authenticate with any of those. One feature that was implemented by Mauro D'Amico in pas.plugins.oidc and on the volto-authomatic, that's the front-end part, is the ability for you to, when you do this, it sends you to the logout, and then I'm logged out everywhere. Okay, so I'm not logged out only from Plone, but also from Keycloak. Now I want to show you two different things. First thing is login. I want to sign in now with GitHub. In Paban, I am authenticated. I am the same user I was before. I did not complete the mappings, but things I could do is basically say GitHub username come from this account. and from this social connection, and then I believe in that, and so on and so forth. Let me do this now and see if it works. I want to go here just to see to show you the behind the scenes. This is the default theme for Keycloak. Here I have a realm that's called master, and I have the realm called Plone. I use master basically to just to control the installation of Keycloak, but I have Plone. This could be a meaningful name like intranet or whatever, my company. Of course, this setup comes straight from the tests of pas.plugins.oidc and pas.plugins Keycloak groups. So I basically got whatever we had there and cleaned it up a bit. There's some important things I'm going to show you soon enough, but first thing is user federation. I can connect the identity providers, so can add another one like Microsoft, OpenShift, GitHub, GitLab, and whatever. So for if you have a GitLab setup, you can use that as well. User federation, LDAP, and in here I have the simple configuration how to connect, right? If a test connection, perfect. Test authentication, perfect. But the important thing is what happens in mappers. In here, you see I have a field in I want to get something called creation date here, and I say the mapping comes from create timestamp on LDAP. I want the username, that's important for us. Username comes from UID. Now, if we're talking about Active Directory, this is going to be SAM account. I think that's the thing. You basically add in here. Email comes from mail, right? And I can basically say, oh, always read the value from LDAP or is mandatory LDAP. You can control whatever what you need in terms of authentication. And in here we have groups, and I say all my groups come from this, and this is the class of objects. If we have inheritance, we can set in here as well, and so on. And Keycloak, it can do that on a regular basis, but you can basically say sync LDAP groups to Keycloak. If you do this, it basically gets all the groups on LDAP and bring it here. That helps a lot in terms of performance. Whoever integrated Plone with LDAP should remember that one of the hardest part was to get caching right, because in the past, when you LDAP is not very performant in terms of querying of groups and so on and so forth, and going every time there to just get me the usernames and get me the groups for this user, get the group information. It was like a performance bottleneck. So in here you can have this. I came in here also to show you that if I search for Érico in here, I'm going to see the details. First and last name, email verified, yes or no, where does the information come from, some of the attributes, credentials, where it comes from. Role mapping has something like default Plone roles, but the groups, all those groups come from LDAP, right? And in here it says, also this person has this already the GitHub account authenticated. So for instance, one thing we could do is map Érico F, the username, to the an additional field like GitHub username on Keycloak, and then move that also to Plone, right? Another thing I want to show you is these are the groups that come from LDAP. I could even have other groups in here. For instance, if my main authentication is my main authentication system is GitHub. I can create all the groups I want in here and then assign people. I use this interface instead of using everything else. One thing, let me see if it's in here, site editors, right? Members, attributes, role mapping, and that's important. Role mapping, I basically said that whoever is part of site, the group site editor is going to receive editor and member, right? By default, that's the way we basically give permissions in here, control everything in here. The hosts were created here, right, by default. So that's the logic. And also, there are some additional things in here. There's the clients in the pas.plugins.oidc documentation. It explains a bit about how to create that, but that's important. This one is the client. Imagine like authentication method for you to talk between the Plone backend and the Keycloak. So I need to talk to do this and get the token and so on and so forth. I use this client in here. And there's a second client I created called Plone-admin that uses the API of Keycloak to get the list of groups. So in here, as you can see, I have everything set up because this comes from the setup needed by pas.plugins.oidc and pas.plugin Keycloak groups for their tests. Okay, I'm not going to touch these anymore. I'm here. I'm going to do a logout again because you saw that I was able to authenticate with both LDAP user and password, and then with GitHub connect both accounts, and that's important. I believe it's possible for us to have a link to a page on Keycloak. I need to research a bit more that basically say, click in here and then you authenticate with something else, and then it connects the accounts. That would be awesome, and then we would need to just change the configuration of volto-authomatic to support also that. What I want to show you now is this thing in here. Right now, if I want to authenticate in this place without going to Keycloak, I need to do this, right? Fail-safe login or fallback login. It gives me the old login form. What I want to show you is there was a requirement from all the web to basically say, okay, I want to allow people to also test login with Plone if they want to. So now I'm going to click the same login, and first thing is login with OpenID Connect. That's going to send me back there. And now let me get back here. And the second one is login with Plone. So admin. Now I'm authenticated like the admin in here. So this new version of pas.plugins.oidc, volto-authomatic, that was released yesterday and is this one in here. It's working now with this version of pas.plugins.oidc and with this version of Keycloak groups. Okay? So this is the setup I have. I have a LDAP and LDAP backend, Keycloak, and then GitHub as well. What I want to show you is what do we have behind the scenes in here. First thing is, when I go to site setup, I do have OIDC settings. These are the settings being used in here. So I could basically install pas.plugins.oidc and then come in here and fill up everything. So this is who's responsible for this. What is the client ID I'm using? What is the secret? As you can see, it's not that secret. Redirect URLs. Where do we send back this user? Right, that's important. It's creating user here as well. I'm not creating groups. This is something that could have been done, but I decided to use the create this additional plugin. I'm going to talk more to get the group information straight from Keycloak. So in here, I could even list the groups I allow to be here, but not the case. In here, create REST API ticket. This is the JWT, OpenID scopes, and that's it. That configures our connection. And let me see here, coming back, site setup, Keycloak group settings, use groups from Keycloak. That's the base URL for Keycloak. The helm name I'm going to use, and same thing, client ID and client secret. I could have just one client. One client that does both. I decided to have two just to have clear separation. And if I come in here and Victor is watching us, this is terrible because as group name, it returns me the ID of the groups on Keycloak. And that's, oh my God, I have no idea where what this info information even mean. But see, if I come in here, user group membership, the names are correct. So we need to fix that in Volto in some way just to make sure. And if I decide to share content, like come in here in sharing and core, it gets me the correct name. So it's something we need to improve in terms of features in Volto. But that's it. You basically have everything you need. Of course, this is not about how can we implement the most perfect Keycloak setup. It's not my goal in here. But after Fred works with the Keycloak setup for the Plone Foundation, we come back and discuss that. But it's the fact that for new projects, for instance, for internet or for things that already have a Keycloak in place, pas.plugins.oidc and the volto-authomatic are the perfect solution. I'm not sure if this is working as expected because collective volto-authomatic. Here, let's see the deployments in here. So this is the storybook for the client solution. So we have in here some support components. For instance, this is the core, the form for the login. It's not the login form from Plone. It does not use semantic UI anymore in here. It also has some changes. We have a loading component that uses semantic UI, but I'm planning at some point to talk to my good friend Alok and my good friend Hohit. And see, they're saying hi and agreeing with me to basically re-implement that in with just pure CSS. We do not need this component. We have the out providers. We have just a small list of them. So Facebook, GitHub, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, Twitter, OIDC. And then if I want one provider login, one provider register, multi-providers login. And if I add Plone, how does it go? And then login while I'm loading. If there are no providers, it falls back to the login form. That's important because the previous version of volto-authomatic had this shortcoming of, okay, I did not set up yet my backend authentication with pas.plugins.oidc or pas.plugins.oidc, but there was no way to authenticate. Now this is kind of solved in here. One provider, multiple providers, and Plone. And multiple providers, if I selected Plone in here, it ends up here. So it's easy to, right now, it's also easy to change the colors and the look and feel because we have styles.css in here with some variables. So all you need to do, for instance, I want to change the hover effect. You can basically come in here and say, okay, what do I want? And implement everything the way you want. So, oh, I want to change Plone in here. I want to change the OIDC color. It's your call. It's easy to implement. Also, this volto-authomatic is almost entirely written in TypeScript. It was a kind of a test to see how it goes, and also uses for the GitHub Actions. It uses the most up-to-date setup that points to Plone Meta to get shared workflows from there. You see in here, it even deploys the storybook with the latest changes. And in here, we have a configuration that basically tells you what to do and so on and so forth. That's it. In general, what I wanted to share with you is authenticating with Plone was always easy to plug to any authentication system. These days, more and more, it's becoming clear that I do not want users to have yet another user and password. I do not want them to basically authenticate just because, oh, I need a user and password on my site, but then the authentication happens on LDAP. There are many ways for us to delegate the authentication elsewhere. One of them is, I believe it was maintained by Moritz, was WebAuth or something. It's a pas plugin also, that you trust the information that comes from on a given header or in a cookie, and then your backend checks that information. And it seems OpenID / OAuth are basically winning. I know for a fact that there are things you can build on top. For instance, I know that all the web, they use pas.plugins.oidc to do this authentication. And they created something to get the groups, the groups and the users from this external source that's a Microsoft service or backend, and populate populate Plone up front. So I would say these are the way to go. We still have the pas plugin ODAP, I believe. Last time I checked, it works with Plone 6, but is not documented to work with Plone 6. We would love to see an improvement there. But in general, if you're going to, my humble opinion, if you're going to set up something like LDAP authentication and so on, set up a Keycloak in the middle, because it gives you already a bunch of features. Let's see. But then your web server needs to be to do the out and exactly. There's in here. Fred is talking about the web out header thing. There's one important thing I saw the other day. There is I was looking for Keycloak and LDAP, and I found someone that basically has a middleware for traffic. Traffic is the server, like the router we use. Let me go back in here. We recommend you to use this. So traffic. There's a middleware that actually authenticates against Keycloak and then returns. If you're not authenticated, it's going to force you to authenticate and so on and so forth. So that connects to the solution from Moritz as well. So another way to use Keycloak. But in general, this is the important thing. If you need to authenticate, put a Keycloak, invest some time. It's not hard. It's not hard to maintain. Of course, it's yet another system, but it's a specialized system that does this thing really well and has all the caching and story to allow you to make it your own. And of course, you can have different helms, authenticate different things. That was it from my side. I would love to hear from you if you have questions, if you want me to talk a bit more about something else, please let me know in here. And one last thing about this. As I said, this one in here was released yesterday, and I'm constantly working on the idea of making the final release and make sure it's correct. So if you already use volto-authomatic, Plone Collective volto-authomatic, I would ask you to please go try this version and tell me if it's okay. I do believe I made a mistake and did not copy all the previous translations. But if that's the case, please contribute. I would love to see more people testing this and making sure it's working. That was it. I would like to thank you all for joining me. I'm going to publish this repository on Collective later today. When I publish, I'm going to post on social networks, pushing also on the Plone social network, so you can follow this. Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you soon in another episode of Plone Hands-On. Bye-bye.